Hi everyone, and welcome back to spring at Decisive Squirrel Homestead. Today is April 10th. We have not had a lot of time to make videos or really to spend much time in the garden either, but we do have a lot of food growing, and so I was going to take you around and show you a real life update. Everything is not pretty, of what's going on in the garden right now. So let's go take a look at everything. So first of all, our potato patch with potatoes growing in the ground is going really well. Some of the plants are starting to flower, which means it won't be long before we are able to harvest potatoes. We have two big areas of potatoes growing and they are all doing really well. So we're happy with how that's going. The other half of this bed over here is very overgrown with weeds, and we have some ants we need to evict. This area will become, I think, purple whole peas when the weather warms up, maybe some okra over here. We're trying to get this soil improved. It's not great, but okra and purple whole peas grow really well where we're at. So I think that's a good thing to put over here, but we're definitely going to need to clean all this up. But first, we're going to get all of these lovely potatoes out of the ground. So we're excited about that. Over here in the main part of the garden, the grass is very overgrown. We had a big cold snap, and then we had lots and lots of rain. And it is too soupy out here to mow. So the weeds have kind of taken off, but I'm hoping we will be able to get this mowed during this week, hopefully. Let's see, in the main part of the garden, our peas did not do well at all. I think that's because it was too warm for the most part. So we ended up pulling all of our peas without getting anything at all, which is unusual. Usually we get a pretty good pea harvest. But we do have carrots growing pretty well. These are carrots right here in the middle, and those are doing pretty good. Garlic on that outside edge is also doing good, and that will get harvested pretty soon. It should be finishing up. And then here closest to the arches where the peas were, we've put in green beans, and those are just now starting to come up. Some of them have put out their first true leaves. I see some down here that are doing a little bit better, but those are all starting to grow and doing a pretty good job. I still have my Swiss chard here that's left over from the winter. This is the one plant that didn't get picked, and it's still growing great, so I've just left it. I need to harvest that and do something with that soon. Over here on the other side, we don't have a whole lot in this bed. There's more green beans along the edge close to the arch. There's my old okra tree from last year that I thought maybe it would come back, but it is definitely not going to come back. But I just haven't pulled it out. In the middle, again, I have a few carrots along here, and then a bunch of weeds out there on the side. Again, when we get the yard mowed, I'll be able to clean that out a little bit better. This looks like just a bunch of weeds and grass, but if we wade through this and avoid any snakes that are hiding. One of our fig trees that was looking pretty dead from all of the dry weather last summer has started to come back. It's got one, this is a weed, but we have one good branch putting out leaves, and I think we might get some more shoots from the bottom too. We just need to clean that up. And then this one over here we really thought had died. All of these sticks out here are dead, but it did put out a new shoot that's looking really nice and healthy. Oh, there's a second one too. So I think we'll get that fig back. Oh wait, there's a third one. I hadn't seen the third one. So yeah, I think this plant's gonna be fine. We just need to get out here, mow nearby, pull the weeds, and put up some, like a cage around it so that we don't accidentally mow over it. And I think it'll come back. I'm not sure what we'll do if we have another really dry summer, because we did keep these watered pretty well. So maybe they need some shade until they get better established. But we need to do something a little bit different because they were not happy with the extreme heat and extreme dry weather last year, even though they did get watered regularly. Back over here in the garden, we have our tomatoes taking off. We did start pruning these a little bit, the ones that are indeterminate plants. I think there's a little bit of video of that we might be able to insert here. But I came out here and did some pruning, taught our youngest child how to prune. Our kids choose not to be on video though, so you won't see that. But we did have a little gardening lesson, and we are getting blooms on these tomatoes. I had picked some blooms off, some of the earlier ones, but they're getting pretty well established now. They've got a good stem to them, so I think I'm going to let them go ahead and set fruit now. And I'm actually seeing lots of flowers as I look down this row. We need to put another row of cattle panel arches in here so that these tomato plants on the left have something to be attached to. And we need to get all of these plants kind of tied up to this arch here soon because they're starting to get big. We have 3 rows of tomatoes, so we have 2 over here on the left, and then we have another row over here on the right. We didn't grow many tomatoes last year because we had grown so many the year before that we were still working through all of our tomato products that we had canned. But we've gone through that quite a bit now, and so we are back to having lots of tomatoes this year. And we'll be doing lots of sauces and barbecue sauce and ketchup and diced tomatoes and all of that fun stuff. And I think we're going to do more freeze drying this year and not so much canning, just because it stores a little bit better, stores longer. I think that'll work out better for us. We have onions growing down the middle here. I see some ragweed coming up. Actually, I need to pull that out of the garden. And over here in the last row, we also have onions. These are not growing quite as well. I believe that's just a soil issue. It just takes time to get, this was really bad soil when we moved in, and it just takes time to build it up. Things have been getting better, but we have some spots you can kind of see down here at the end. So here closest to me, things are growing pretty well. But then as you get down here, there's like a bare spot where things just really didn't take off. So there's just some spots where I think the soil is just really not very good. But we work with it and things are getting better over time. Over here along our fence, we have our berries, and that has also been hit or miss, but things seem to be finally taking off a little bit better this year. So we have this blackberry bush that has a few flowers on it. It didn't really do anything for a long time, but now it seems like it might. And then this blackberry bush seems really, really happy finally. So you can see it's really spread out, but it's also come around and put one of its canes into the ground here. So we're letting that happen and hoping it reestablishes itself and kind of spreads out along this fence. And we have gotten blooms and we have berries on this blackberry plant. That's a tongue twister. So we're excited about that and hoping we get more as time goes on. We have a little ladybug friend working on this one. There he is. Taking care of things, getting rid of pests for us. We've seen lots of ladybugs this year, which makes us happy. Here's another one. That means we are getting a good ecosystem going here. We like having those friendly bugs to help with pest control. This is also a new cane that's coming up from the ground here. It's not attached to anything else. So that's good. That means that we are planting for the future here. There's another nice new cane down there. So unfortunately, the blackberry plant that took off is not one of the thornless ones, but it is what it is. It's making fruit, and we will just have to wear gloves and long sleeves when we harvest it, but that's okay. And then over here at the end, we have dewberries. Dewberries grow wild where we're at, and there are also lots of new canes here that will not put out fruit this year, but they will next year. So you can see these are very similar to blackberries. And dewberries can be used just like blackberries in jams and pies and all of that sort of thing. So we'll get a few here this year. I think we probably need to put a net over this so the birds don't get them before we do. But after we harvest these berries, I'm wanting to get in here and pull out the canes that made fruit this year and just leave behind the new canes that will make fruit next year. That'll just keep things a little bit cleaner and easier to deal with. Dewberries will just take over everywhere. You can see they're starting to spread those canes out in here into the garden, and I don't really want that to happen. I want to keep them contained to at least this general area so they're not just everywhere, because they will take over. So I'm going to try to keep that a little bit cleaned up. But that is how things are going in the main part of the garden. And we do have a few other fun things to check out, so let's go see those. Our wicking beds are doing quite well. We have this cattle panel we've put on top because one of our, not really our cat, but has become our cat that lives out here, was using these as a litter box, and we didn't want that to happen, so we put the cattle panel arch on top. It's just sitting there and it keeps the cat from digging in the bed. Our beets here are doing really well in these beds. We've never been able to grow beets successfully in the ground, but they've done really well here. So we've actually started harvesting these. We had some beet greens with roasted beets recently. I think I have video of that too. We did those, I think, last weekend. So those are doing well. What used to be our herb bed is now just a mint bed because that's what mint does. It takes over, but we have lots of mint there. Our asparagus beds I've started to harvest. We're not getting as much asparagus as I thought we would get from the crowns that we have. So I would like to improve that some, but I think we do have well-established crowns here, and we probably just need to be more consistent with harvesting it so that it'll keep putting up more spears. You can see these are ones that we have not harvested that have ferned out here, but we also have new ones coming up, and I have some in the fridge that I've harvested recently. What I've been doing when I harvest those is just putting them in a short glass of water and putting a Ziploc bag over the top of the whole thing and then sticking it in the fridge, and they last quite a while like that so that we can collect over a few days. We also have basil coming up here that we did not plant. It's just left over from dropping seed last year, which works for me. I am all about self-seeding food. That is an ideal situation for us. We also have some exciting developments in our fruit trees. So again, with all the rain we've had, and this is actually a low spot in the yard, it has been too soupy to get back here and mow, but our fruit trees are pretty happy. So we have some peaches that have set fruit on this tree that I think we'll actually get this year. Our pear trees have put out leaves, but I haven't seen any blooms yet. So I don't know that they're going to do any fruit this year, but that's okay. They're still in a growth phase. This peach tree is really, really happy. I've actually been thinning the fruit over here a lot because there's so much on here that this tree can't support all of this. I need to thin some more, I think. I think there's still too much on here for the size tree it is. But lots and lots of peaches. And again, I think we need to get some netting, or I know they make like net bags to put over the fruit so the birds can't get it. And I think that probably needs to happen pretty soon. There's one of our pear trees. No blooms on that, but it's got some nice new growth and some leaves. And this apple over here we thought was dead, but it's not. It's got new growth out at the ends. So that's good. Hopefully eventually it blooms and sets fruit, but I don't think that's going to be this year. Our citrus trees that are up here in pots, the lemon tree is looking really unhappy. There's not a lot of foliage on it, but it is actually making fruit for the first time. So maybe we're getting it healthier. We just have a little bit more work to go get some better soil in here. But we do have some lemons on here, so that's exciting. The lime tree looks a lot happier, and it also looks like it's going to give us some fruit this year. So we should be getting citrus here soon. Well, I don't mean harvesting soon. I mean these trees will actually produce this year and next year probably. This bonfire peach tree has never grown. It's put out leaves, it's put out blooms, but it just hasn't done any new growth, so I'm not sure what's going on with that or if it's ever going to really do anything for us. We also have near the house, we put our squash and zucchini in pots, and that was so we could get them away from the garden because we've had such an issue with squash vine borers and nothing I've done has helped save them. So I'm hopeful that having the squash and zucchini over here in different soil away from the main part of the garden will give us a little bit of a reprieve from the squash vine borers. I also wanted to try growing them vertically, which I've seen other people do on YouTube, but I've never personally tried, where you just give them some support and instead of them trailing out along the ground, you have them grow up and you trim those bottom leaves as they get taller. So we'll see how that goes. I don't know how well it's going to work here, but they are starting to take off, and hopefully that gives us a little bit of a break from the squash vine borers. We have one plum tree over here that is doing a fabulous job of growing. This is our healthiest tree we've put in. Unfortunately, its buddy over there died last summer. So that doesn't work because plums need 2 different plums to be able to set fruit. So we're gonna have to get another plum tree for this guy to coexist with so that we can actually get fruit. But this tree is really healthy, so that's half the battle, right? We just need to get one more. Last but not least, we have this apple tree that hasn't really grown all that much, but loves to put out fruit. This makes one of our children very happy because apples are her favorite fruit, possibly her favorite food. She eats a lot of apples. And you can see this tree has some really nice looking apples on it this year, so that is very, very exciting. The tree is leaning a bit. We need to do some work to get it to stand up a little bit straighter and try to get it to grow a little bit bigger. But at least it's making fruit, which is something. So that's exciting. Our work with the fruit trees is finally paying off, and we are looking forward to having more and more fruit in the future. And the ladies out here are also doing well. They are over 2 years old now, but they are still giving us 9 to 10 eggs a day now that the days have gotten longer and they've finished with their molt. Again, we had all this rain recently, so they're looking pretty ratty right now. We have been moving them, but they get the grass down to mud pretty quick. So they're not in the best shape today, but overall they're doing well. We need to do a little bit of maintenance on their coop when the weather cooperates. And like I said, they're still giving lots of eggs, so we're happy with that. They can hang around as long as they contribute. But they are giving us lots of eggs again. We've been doing lots of angel food cake and freeze drying eggs and all of that good stuff. We also have more seedlings that are getting ready to go in the ground pretty soon. These are peppers. We have some loofahs down there, and I forget what else. Cucumbers, I think, are down there. So we actually, because we haven't had the time to spend on the garden this year, we did not start seeds inside. We only started seeds outside. They've lived outside the entire time. We bring them in if it's really cold or if there's going to be like a flooding rain. We put them under the porch so they're not getting messed up. But they've done surprisingly well, and I think we'll probably stick with that in the future. It's been less work because we don't have a big grow light set up, and so we can just line them all up here on the tables, and if we need to bring them in, we bring them in, and it's not that big of a deal. So that's actually saved us some time, and I think that's gone pretty well for us. We have really mild weather, not mild, we don't have very cold weather, we'll put it that way. So our winter was pretty warm. We did have some big temperature swings, but it doesn't stay cold for very long. So I think the seedlings do fine out here because it doesn't get very cold. But that's worked out well. We are going to have time to spend more time in the garden here soon, which is good because we'll be getting into the height of gardening season where we are harvesting and turning things over. We'll be pulling some things out and putting other things in and doing a lot of our food preservation. So it will be nice to have the time for that. And hopefully we'll have the time to also video that. It takes a little bit of time to make these, and so we don't always have time to both do the gardening and video the gardening. But I know we have a lot of friends out there that are just curious about what we're doing, and some new subscribers that my husband got at his last conference, I think. So hi, if you're new here, and we just do this to update our friends. So the videos are a little sporadic sometimes, but we try to keep y'all updated on what's going on. So I hope things are growing well where you are, and we will see y'all soon. Bye.